Hi everybody, it's Nick Askham here from Racing the Planet, and welcome to episode 2 in my series on how to look after your feet. So today's episode is primarily talking about the prevention of blisters, things that you can do prior to and during the race. So first of all, I would recommend that you have tested your shoes sufficiently and know what shoe sock combination that you're going to have, and buy a new pair of shoes before the race, because you're going to get the maximum amount of cushioning from them. However, then wear them at least say 20 to 30 miles of just a light breaking in, so your feet bed into them perfectly before you get to the race. So that goes the same for your socks as well. Make sure that you have worn them at least a little bit, just to make sure they don't have any seams or anything that you're not expecting when you start racing. The other thing to look at is for what condition your feet themselves enter the race in. So you want to make sure, obviously, that you cut your toenails and taken any pieces of hard skin down. So looking at toenail length, you want to make sure that you can't see certainly your toenails over the pulp of your toe. Run your finger over them, make sure they're not sticking out at all. Cut them back to a short, cut them short, but not obviously too short that you've cut the skin or there's any likelihood that they'll dig into the skin. Some people are left with sharp corners on the side of their nails, so if that's the case, you can round those off with a file or a nail scissors, but again, not going too far down the edges. You can get that done professionally by a podiatrist, but again, I would have made sure that it's a trusted podiatrist, maybe somebody you've seen before, somebody who knows your feet and isn't going to go too crazy on them before you, knowing that you're going into a race. With skin, I would be taking a little bit of skin off certain areas. I build a little bit of callus around here. I mean, callus is actually good because it protects areas that get pressure. Your body knows what it's doing. It builds callus in areas of pressure. So if there's too much callus there, though, it can cause discomfort. So you're wanting to just scrape a little bit off and make that more comfortable, but don't go too crazy, and take off your protection. The biggest problem that you're going to encounter in the desert are blisters. Now, blisters can occur absolutely anywhere on your feet, but do have their favourite places they like to come, and you're probably more than aware of where these are in your own personal history of running, and I'm sure you've had blisters at various times over the years. So the blisters are caused by friction, moisture, and heat. Obviously there's an abundance of all of those things in the desert because it's a very hot place and your feet are going to sweat more than normal and swell. So all of these things together can cause a perfect place for blisters to arise. So the things that you can do to prevent blisters, there's different techniques. Some people actually like to use lubrication so that there's no friction between the toes, especially if you are likely or have done in the past to get blisters in between toes. Then actually putting petroleum jelly, Vaseline or body glide between your toes is something that some people have done and get along with. Personally, I don't actually like that technique. I don't like the feeling of my toes moving around whilst I'm running, but people do. The other option is to tape them. So what you're trying to do is, on areas where you know that a blister may occur, you're putting a layer over your skin, which actually just creates a barrier, a little bit of a tough outer skin, so you're not irritating that area up in the first place. I'm going to go over a full taping session shortly to actually show you how I would tape an area of the foot. So looking across the foot, tips of toes, in between, as I said, any lumps and bumps that you particularly have, such as I've got a mild bunion here, which is slightly prominent, and that gets rubbing from the top of the shoe. Around the heel, sometimes in the arch, but not that frequently. Around the heel, once again, I've got a bit of a lumpy heel, and that's an area that I often rub up as well. So certainly I would be putting personally taping around my heel area, around the bunion joint here, and probably also maybe a little bit around my toes as well, because I think in a desert race, you know, I'm going to be super cautious and put tape as much place as I can to try and help prevent them. Looking at the kit you're going to need to tape up your feet, it's a fairly simple kit. However, there's different options out there, different types of tape and different ways of putting the tape on your feet. My favourite, my lineup here is my hypoallergenic tape. This is dressing tape, so it can also be used for to keep dressings down if you get blisters, if you do get blisters, but it also can be used as pre-tape. This stuff is brilliant, I love it. It's really sticky. That's what you're looking for in a tape, something that isn't going to roll up at the edges and then come unstuck and then actually be more of an irritant to your foot. So this is excellent. I also love zinc oxide tape. Zinc oxide tape is wonderful. It's really super sticky. It's a good old-fashioned plasters. However, some people are actually allergic to that, so you have to be a little bit aware if you have got any allergies, whether you actually are allergic to zinc oxide. And also it doesn't like being on for long periods, so you do have to change it every day. I would let your feet breathe overnight and then reapply it in the morning. Chances are it'll still be in place because it's such tough tape. Now, I bought some online, and this is Physio zinc oxide tape. It's not as good, it's not quite as sticky, but you might have to, once again in training, trial and error some tapes out there, see if they work for you. I definitely recommend taping up your feet in training, just to, firstly to practice doing it, and also to see how it stays in place. The advantage of dressing tape, or this hypoallergenic tape, is that it's got a backing to it, so it's actually really easy to work with. So my tape is MeFix. Hyperfix is another one. There's a Fix 'em all. There's so many tapes out there which are basically dressing tapes. Now, a lot of people have in the past used micropore. A micropore for me doesn't go around toes very well. It's okay for toes, but it doesn't go around big areas because it tends to be, it folds slightly, and the last thing that you want to do is actually create folds in your tape. So I'm really anal about my taping and how neat it is, because any folds, any corners are cause for possible irritation. So what I would be looking at doing with this MeFix tape is cutting strips. What I'm going to do firstly is dress my heel, and then I'm going to go forward and dress my around my bunion area, and then around my big toe and my digits as well. So what you're looking at doing really is firstly cutting a number of strips here. I think we need 4 strips for the heel. And you can have these pre-prepared if you want to in your bag. Cut to length, saves you messing around. Before you start dressing your heel, you want to make sure everything is clean. Your whole foot needs to be as clean as possible. Things will not adhere to dusty or sweaty surfaces. Now that's kind of hard in the desert, I know. If you've got access, if there's a stream or anything like that, obviously you can use that to clean your foot with. But try and make it as a clean surface as possible. You can have wet wipes, or you know, this is my sterile wipe, which I use pre-dressing, but you can actually use one of those and clean an area if it's particularly messy. But I would recommend that you can put a drop of water on these little towels and make a towel out of them, and then give your foot a good wash. I recommend doing that every night, regardless of whether you've got blisters or not. So I have now got 4 pieces of tape around this length. This might be a little bit short actually, we'll see how it goes. And the main thing is that you take corners off, because these are likely to then pull up in your sock if you don't. So I would actually round the whole corner off here. So we're looking now like this. You can do these all together to save time. I should have done this earlier, obviously. So last one. Okay, that's the first 4. So 4 equal size strips. And what we're going to do is one around the bottom here firstly. So this has just got a sticky back to it. Try not to, when you separate it, sometimes it rolls slightly, so try and keep that nice and straight. And then we're putting, the first one just goes around, put a little bit of pressure, so we're trying to avoid any creases. So really carefully as you go, just let it fall onto the skin firstly. You don't want to pull it with too much pressure. Sorry you can't see around the other side, but that's in place there. Now if you have a little bit of a crease there, well, there's 2 options. You can leave it be, you can separate it again and put a scissor cut down, or you can actually cut with scissors, cut that little rim off. I think that's small, I don't think that's going to bother me too much. Now the second one has got a little bit of a cut in it. This is slightly different. You want to cut like this. The reason being is we're going to fold it in around the heel. So this is now protecting the back of my heel. So this one goes lower down. And we are now, and again, same thing, just gradually allowing that to go and touch the heel. Now on the split you can put one under and one goes over. So what we're doing, we've avoided creasing at the contour of the heel. Okay, so that's two pieces in place. So we're doing exactly the same thing again. First one doesn't have a split and goes underneath. Okay, and to get that last little piece which is poking out there, we'll put the last piece on again, putting a split in. This is tricky, you have to be a contortionist to get in the right position. Avoiding as many folds as possible. If you feel, I feel actually I want to put another split in here, so I'm going to put 2 to just make that extra contoured bit easier to get around. Lovely, that's much more like it. Okay, so that is your heel, fully enclosed in pre-taped and ready to go to prevent blisters and any friction happening on those lumpy bits around the heel. Now the next thing you want to look at is my bunion joint and this side of the toe here. If you're doing both of them, I would put a piece of tape across both of them at the same time. However, there's a lot of movement in your, well, not a lot of movement in mine's arthritic, but there's a lot of movement there, so skin surface pulls a lot, so you might want to do it in 2 separate pieces. And I quite often do, if I'm just doing the end piece, I might even do it as small as this, times 2. Once again, you're taking the corners off. And again, I like to put a slit up there and also a slit up here. just on the one side. So the first piece of tape goes on the top part of the foot, the top part of the toe. No folds, please. So top there, use the fold to prevent any creasing. That piece has gone on nicely. And now, so last time you put it on with the fold this way, now turn it around so the fold's the other way, so you don't have two slits on top of each other. So this now covers up the last slit and then folds in. There we go. So that's really solid there. Two doubled up over that piece here. Now you can use the same principle and go over the bunion there. I wouldn't go crossways. I actually, on reflection, I think doing it this way is better, not too long. I'm not trying to do two in one. I like to do them separately, but it's kind of up to you. You can trial it both ways. This might be a touch long. I'm really just trying to stop that bunion from getting extra pressure. Again, I'm going to do my slit and my corner edgings, roundings. Good. Scissor skills. Talking of scissors, get a good pair of scissors. These are my clinical scissors, obviously, and you're not going to carry these on a race, but do try and get a really sharp pair of scissors. You need to be able to cut through this tape neatly. This tape is sticky stuff, so if you've got a blunt pair of scissors, it just sticks to it and you don't get a good cut. So you can get some good ones on your little Swiss Army knife, but just test them, make sure they are good enough. So now we're looking at doing the bunion. Same principle, use the split to your advantage. Turn it around so the split isn't on both the same sides. Oops, I have messed this one up a little. There we go. And use the split. Okay, that's on the top where I would normally get some of my irritation. So that is the heels and those parts of the foot. The only other areas that I'm going to do are the toes, the little toes and the big toe. Same principle for each of those. Now I'm going to use, this is 5 centimeters across, by the way, and I'm going to cut it this way this time, 2 for each toe. I'm only going to do one toe for time saving, obviously. Again, oh no, you probably don't need to actually cut these ones around so much, not on the toes. It's going to be slightly different. So the order that you do these in is essential. The first one wants to go over the top like this, and that's going to prevent rubbing on the tip of the toe, and the second one is going to go around, circulate the toe. So, oh, wrong way. So the first one goes over the tip of the toe, like that, and push down the corners. Now you will see that there are 2 ears sticking out there. We're going to snip those ones off. Take a snip and take another snip there, and the second piece of tape then goes around the circumference of the toe. The tip of this though, the last thing you want to do is strangle your toe, stop blood supply going down, so you want to do it loosely. Tight enough to stay on, but loosely, not to strangle the toe circulation. So I'm just going to lay it across the top. There's no pressure on the tape. This tape is stretchy and it will get tighter if you pull it too hard. So just lay it down, allow it to stick as you push it around, and not too tight. Okay, there we go, and that's that toe. If there are any corners, you can snip them once again. There's no corners there, that's all fine by me. So that is, obviously you carry on and do whichever areas you want to do. If you want to be really cautious, you know, you can do every single toe. The only other area sometimes people get blisters is around the ball of a foot. That's a little bit more difficult to dress sometimes. You have to cut a piece of tape rounded like the front of your foot, so like this, and then maybe round it with the shape of the toes. So something like that shape. And this is not easy. Again, if you've got corners which are too in the wrong place, just round them off. I didn't round it off quite enough here. So really all you're doing is putting a pad on there like that. It's lining the surface, making it more robust for friction. It's reducing friction that goes through. You can double up on that. Now, once you've got your sock on there, that will help hold all the dressings in place, stop them moving around so much. You know, your feet are going to get hot, they're going to get sweaty, things are going to move, but we can try and minimize that as much as possible is the ideal. So that's pre-taping. As I said, I really do love a piece of zinc oxide tape, and you can actually use that in combination. Because this is hypoallergenic, what you can do is, if you have a particular, you know that your heel gets particular blisters, what you can do is make one sheet that goes over that to give it a bit more durability. This is a bit of a pain because it's just sticky. It's sticky on the back. It hasn't got paper on the back, so it's harder to cut. So you have to kind of cut it in mid-air, not touching it too much. And it does tend to stick to your scissors. So round corners off, as you have been doing. And I actually probably would just put, I know my lump is right there, so I'm going to put one layer all the way through, just as an extra robust piece of taping. So if you get yourself the materials, try this in training. You want your hypoallergenic or dressing tape, which is Mefix in my case, Fix-em-all or whatever incarnation you find in your area of the world, and also get some zinc oxide tape or similar. It might be that you find, well, actually this stays on better than the Mefix or the dressing tape. So it's just a bit of trial and error, see what your feet prefer and which ones you get along with. I like this because it's easy to do, because it's of the backing that it comes with, really much more easier than the stuff you've got to cut in mid-air, so, without it sticking to your scissors. So it's trial and error, as I say. So all in all, look after your feet as much as you possibly can before blisters happen. If you're in the race and you find that there's a blister occurring on an area that you haven't taped or haven't ever had a blister, get down on the floor there and then and dress that blister. Even if you just put a simple flat piece of tape over it, that will stop some of the progression of that blister. It's a mistake to carry on to the next checkpoint even sometimes, or certainly to the end and think I'll do it tomorrow, because by that time that pre-blister has turned into a blister and you're then having it impact your race in whatever way. So look after your feet is essential. So I hope that's been of some use to you guys. The next thing that I'm going to talk about, my next episode, is going to be the treatment of blisters. So if this all fails, then we are having to try and treat those blisters, stop them getting worse, aggravating and potentially even stopping your race. So Nice to speak to you again. Have a good day and enjoy your training and your taping practice. Speak to you later. Bye.